Can't always look out for you. No, can't always.
For 5 on 20 News. It is Wednesday, May 3rd, and we're coming to you live from Creative Tucson, here in our Tucson studios downtown. First, let's talk to you about headlines.
Great. Okay. How about some local ones?
Yeah.
Governor Doug Ducey signed legislation yesterday that blocks state and local governments from requiring background checks on private gun sales. This would include banning localities from closing the so-called gun show loophole that allows gun show merchants to sell guns without a background check. Critics have pointed out that the gun show loophole allows individuals to act as straw purchasers who then sell guns in other areas. Many of these guns end up in municipalities with tighter gun control measures such as Chicago and Washington, D.C., and flood the market with illegal guns. Senate Bill 1122 prevents governments from requiring a third party in the, quote, private sale, gift, or donation or other transfer of personal property. The legislation was introduced by Republican Gail Griffin, who says that it protects Arizonans' sale or gifting of personal property regardless of the item. This is good news for that special someone who will be receiving an AR-15 for Christmas next year.
In other news, these guns are for private sale.
Oh, stop.
Had to do it. It's not just Tucson that has roads worse than Baghdad. The entire state of Arizona is suffering from aging roads, desperately in need of updating. The American Society of Civil Engineers, or the ASOCE, recently released their annual report card, and Arizona scored a D+. Good enough to pass, but not good enough to get into college. But on the bright side, the nation's roads earned a straight D. So we've got that going for us. The report cited a $24 billion maintenance cost from the Arizona Department of Transportation, or the ADOT, and wrote that less than 50% of Arizona's roads can be addressed with the current amount of funding, so that's good. Since 1970, Arizona has gone from having 1.3 million cars on the road to 7.7 million as of 2015, and that was in 2015. This has put tremendous strain on roads in the state and not enough additional funding to address the problems. Ram Pendiala, sorry for mispronouncing that, a professor of transportation at ASU, envisions a future where self-driving cars will help alleviate congestion on roads and put less stress on the state's infrastructure. This is because the autonomous vehicles can travel closer to each other, so traffic won't be as terrible in metro areas such as Phoenix and Tucson. Now, if we can only invent a robot that patches up potholes for us and cleans up broken glass, we'd be getting somewhere.
The Eta Aquarid meteor shower has been active since April 19th and runs until May 28th. Experts say that the meteor shower will peak just before dawn on May 5th and 6th, when the shower will produce up to 20 meteors per hour. They say the best way to view the event is to look at the southeast sky about 2 hours before dawn, although this doesn't guarantee you'll catch a meteor. The meteors originate from Halley's Comet, which was last seen by people on Earth in 1910 and will return to Earth in 2062. The meteors are comet dust that travel over 150,000 miles per hour and glow 60 miles above the Earth. So grab a cold one and park yourself on a lounge chair a few hours before dawn. Sure, your neighbors will think you're creepy, but they already think that anyway.
And And speaking of robots, the apocalypse is coming, so make sure to see that now because you will die soon. More Arizona school children are going without vaccinations, according to the Arizona Department of Health Services, or ADOHS. The agency says that vaccine exemptions increased by about 0.5% this year across the state. Arizona health officials are warning parents not to exempt their children from vaccinations, as it can put the community at risk for dangerous diseases such as measles. In 2015, an outbreak of the measles began at Disneyland Park in California and spread to Arizona, where 1,000 people were monitored for the disease. Health officials say that the trend of anti-vaxxing is to blame for the increased occurrences of the measles in recent years. Regardless of the risks, Arizona law allows parents to sign a waiver that exempts their children from vaccinations. They must, however, agree that their child will be pulled from school for up to 3 weeks if there is an outbreak for a disease and that they're not vaccinated for. It also requires that parents wear a shirt that reads, "I brought back a dormant disease and all I got was this lousy t-shirt."
Gross. There still remains no deal between insurance giants United Healthcare and Northwest Healthcare, which will affect 46,000 patients in Tucson. Both sides say they are working on an agreement. Meanwhile, many in Tucson may have to seek out new doctors and, for some, new hospital. Thomas Biuso, a doctor at United, said that unfortunately patients are getting caught up in the business end of healthcare. But he said that United patients can still visit the ER at Northwest Medical Center or Oro Valley Hospital. While the visits will be covered by insurance, there might be higher copays. Northwest released a statement on Monday night announcing that they had been forced out of United's network. They said they, quote, worked tirelessly to maintain patient access to the system, but United rejected every proposal brought to them. Northwest said they would continue to try and reach an agreement that would have minimal impact on patients.
Yeah, I do find myself also, struggling with things that are human rights. With the business end?
The business end?
On the business end of human rights. And I wanted to take a moment, if I could, to talk about the program you're watching right now. Here at 5 on 20, we are undertaking a new kind of citizen journalism. We are going to give you the news as we see it. And we want more people to speak up with us. We need writers, hosts, anchors, camera people, sound people, the whole gamut. The times require a new way of informing ourselves. So join us, do it now. Email us at info@creativetucson.org to get involved. And if you think there's a story we're missing or a person we should interview, an upcoming event that we should cover, or have any news tips for us at all, shoot an email to info@creativetucson.org. We are here for you, and we want to cover all the stories from all points of views, so don't be strangers. Now let's head back over and do national and international news.
Thank you, Ty.
You're welcome.
Greece was given another bailout to avoid default, but which includes deep cuts to government services. The deal to stave off an impending debt default in July includes cuts to pensions and tax increases. In return, international creditors agreed to give the country $7.5 billion in emergency loans to enable Greece to pay back debt payments that are about to mature. At the same time, officials discussed making Greece's debt more manageable, which would help Greece gain access to worldwide capital markets for the first time since 2009. The deal was made after 6 months of debate over financial and structural reforms in the country after Greece took a third $86 billion bailout 2 years ago. That bailout came when Greece was closest to crashing and being kicked out of the EU. As part of that agreement, the leftist government agreed to cut pensions by 18% by 2019. Pension payments have been cut 12 times since the beginning of the crisis in 2009 and cut by 40% in the past 6 years. Perhaps the most important part of the agreement is that Greece agreed to open up their energy market to foreign competitors. Critics have said that world markets are taking advantage of the crisis in Greece to advance their own agenda. But on the other side, critics of the Greek state say that the country fell into debt because of large amounts of tax evasion and too generous pensions that were given to citizens who were able to retire in their 50s. Legislation will still need to be introduced before the changes take place, and it's expected to be presented by May 17th before the next meeting of EU finance ministers on May 22nd. That meeting will focus on how international financiers can continue squeezing the country like a plump olive.
And in additional news, if you're watching us anywhere outside of the EU and wanted to take a cheap vacation to Europe this summer, might know where to go. The Canadian manufacturer of OxyContin settled a long-standing class action suit that alleged the company used deceitful marketing practices. Purdue Pharma Canada paid the equivalent of $14.5 million to end the suit, which was filed in 2007. With the settlement, the company is not obligated to admit liability for charges that they got 2,000 Canadians hooked on the powerful opiate. This settlement includes $2 million for provincial health authorities, but still needs approval from Canadians, who are expected to approve the deal. Ray Wagner, who argued for the plaintiffs, said that in no way is it going to resolve the harm to individuals so horribly affected by the drug, but it's at least some comfort. Next to the United States, Canada, right next to us, Canada is the largest consumer of opiates in the world and is caught in an opiate crisis similar to the U.S. Health Canada says that the crisis is driven both by the emergence of fentanyl and other powerful illegal opiates, and by the high levels of the addiction to legal painkillers. The agency said that the addictions are caused in part by the inappropriate prescription practices and poor education associated with opiates. The suit stems from statements made by Purdue, who claimed the Oxycontin is less addictive and less subject to abuse than other pain medications. Since 2012, Canada has stopped selling Oxycontin. However, Purdue is trying to remarket the product under an alternative name called Definitely Not Addicting Happy Pills.
That's a chipper name.
Yeah.
Former Senator and Tea Party leader Jim DeMint was removed as president of the conservative think tank, the Heritage Foundation. The move came as the conservative movement is going through an identity crisis after the election of Donald Trump, with one side supporting the president while the other refuses to accept him as truly conservative. DeMint embraced Trump, which caused Heritage's president and CEO Ed Foylner to take back the reins. The Heritage Foundation is one of the most influential think tanks and works closely with conservative politicians to draft legislation advancing their agenda. DeMint stepped down from the Senate, surprisingly, 4 years ago to take the position. In previous years, DeMint became the leading figure in the Tea Party movement and even hinted at a run for president. While the foundation welcomed DeMint into the fold, there were soon reports that the leaders found him too political and bombastic. Because who would have thought the spiritual leader of the Tea Party would be political and bombastic? Who knew?
Not I. A recent study found that the doctors are more likely to prescribe generic medications if they are in contact with pharmaceutical representatives. The study, published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, or the JOAMA, compared doctors who worked at hospital that did not have limits from sales reps walking the floors and providing meals and gifts to doctors. The other group of doctors belonged to hospitals that did have limits on these activities. They examined over 16,000 prescriptions and found that changes in prescribing almost instantly after limits were put into place. Those doctors that had limits were more likely to prescribe generics compared to the free group. However, the study is careful to mention that it wasn't the policies that caused the changes in prescription, but rather that there was an association between the two. Also, it mentions that it took policies at their words and didn't look at their implementations. Dr. Howard Bachner, I believe, the journal's editor-in-chief, says that the study proves that hospitals should be limiting pharmaceutical industry's influence on doctors. Agreed. The pharmaceutical industry shot back, saying that Bachner needs to take a chill pill, more specifically a brand name one, maybe even from Canada Pharma, Purdue.
Maybe the definitely not addicting happy pills.
Those
He
ones
should try.
are
Perfect.
great.
I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
The National Security Agency approved almost 2,000 unmasking requests in 2016, a sharp increase from the previous year, according to a transparency report released on Tuesday. In 1,934 instances, the NSA agreed to authorize requests to unmask names that had been blacked out to protect privacy. Normally, these names are kept secret, but officials can request that some names be revealed if it will give context to the intelligence gathering. The process has been criticized by civil libertarians and Batman, who say that unmasking essentially gives the federal government carte blanche to spy on American citizens. Only 654 unmasking requests were granted in 2015, the first year that such information was made public. The report was released at the same time that former NSA advisor Susan Rice caught fire for requesting the unmasking of a group of officials from the Trump campaign. The president has repeatedly accused Rice of trying to interfere with the election and has connected her acts with former President Obama, who Trump thinks is secretly pulling strings while kite surfing in the Pacific. House Intelligence Committee Republicans revealed that they are pressing NSA head Michael Rogers to investigate the issue. They also want Rice to testify on her unmasking requests. Democrats say that it's impossible to tell whether the requests by Rice were inappropriate and that it was entirely in the scope of her job. Trump disagrees, mostly because he's generally pretty unclear on the concept of doing your job.
Yeah, but they do have a good point though. It's the best cover-up. Kind of running away as Obama and pulling, behind the scenes. Like they would never assume you're doing anything.
He's literally pulling strings, not figuratively.
Yeah. Oh, that is how it works. Yeah. All right, well. And lastly, yesterday, the Senate approved Donald Trump's pick to lead the Securities and Exchange Commission, or the SAEC. Only a simple majority was needed to approve Jay Clayton, whose term will expire in 2021. All right, welcome, Jay. Clayton was less controversial than most of Trump's other picks and even picked up some Democratic support among members, such as Michael Benner, Tom Carper, Joe Manchin, and Bill Nelson. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell praised Clayton, saying that he will, quote, promote fair and transparent practices at the SEC, end quote. But some Democrats disagreed, such as Senator Elizabeth Warren, who called out Clayton's coziness with Wall Street banks. Warren said that the SEC under Clayton wouldn't be able to be the, quote, cop on the beat for Wall Street. Despite his relatively scandal-free pass, appointing Clayton isn't exactly draining the swamp, as Trump has promised to do. Clayton worked as a partner as the law firm Sullivan and Cromwell, where he spent over 20 years working for Wall Street on mergers, acquisitions, and federal regulatory compliance. Senator Sherrod Brown said that Clayton, quote, comes from Wall Street, is a part of Wall Street, and we know will protect Wall Street at the SEC. Even though there was resistance, Democrats were unable to block the nominee on their own since it only required a majority vote. At this point, if a nominee hasn't bankrupted a third world country or burnt down a village in their past, then they're considered uncontroversial. Drain the swamp, indeed.
We're like, fill the swamp with more gross swampy water.
Yeah, excited to take a bath. Well, this was Ty Besh
and Luke Goodhart for 5 on 20 News. Next up, we have a very special installment of Strong Sound with Sophie Gibson Rush. We had Sean Cullen of Reveille Men's Choir in the studio for an interview, and Ty came and filmed some of our rehearsal. On a personal note, this is especially exciting for me because I've been singing with these guys since January.
Yeah.
And when I started singing with them, it was, I'm gonna be unabashedly emotional and sappy right now. I was in a pretty dark place. I was really depressed. Things were not going well for me.
Yeah.
And one of the members of Reveille, Paul Miller, had been sort of gently prodding me to come check us out, I think you'll like this. For whatever reason, I didn't have the confidence, just didn't do it.
Right.
Finally, I said, you know what, screw it, this sounds cool, I'm gonna go check it out. And what I found was the most supportive, awesome group of dudes. I mean, you were there, you saw, it's just
cool.
constant joking, laughing, but then also a lot of really serious work. So, at first I don't have a singing background, I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah, what level are you in the choir? Like, are you a high guy, a low guy? How does that work?
Well, I'm a tenor too, so that means I'm sort of, high middle.
Okay, you're very,
Yeah, so, I started singing, I just kept coming to rehearsal, I would leave often very frustrated, but I just kept coming. And something that Sean, the director, said, especially to new people, was you have to trust in the process. And I really took that to heart, and I just kept coming, and it got easier and more fun. And it's just been an amazing transformational experience for me.
That's awesome.
So I have to give a big shout out to Paul Miller for not giving up on me, and to Sean Cullen, who this is actually sort of bittersweet. It's his last performance coming up on the 13th and 14th. He's leaving us and Tucson to continue his educational path. So I think I speak for all of us in Reveille when I say that we're all totally bummed and depressed that you're leaving, but we're
back to where you started.
We wish you the absolute best, and we all love you, and we're going to miss you. And I don't think anyone could question, Sean, that you have fulfilled your mission, Reveille's mission of changing lives through music. You've certainly changed mine. Take a look, Tucson, before I start crying. Stay creative.
See you guys.
Hi, Tucson. Tucson, I'm Sophie Gibson-Rush here, lucky to be joined by Sean Cullen, Artistic Director of Reveille Men's Choir. He's here to talk about the upcoming year-end show that they're putting together. Hi, Sean.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So really quick, the show is on May 13th and 14th at the Temple of Music and Art, and what's it called?
What's love got to do with it?
So what can people expect from this show?
So basically, it's a take on love and the many ways that it affects us. And so there's going to be happy moments and funny moments. And any way that love can really be attached to a song, we've found a way to kind of deliver it to the Tucson community.
That's an enormous amount of repertoire to choose from.
Yeah, we're doing everything from the Beatles to a 90s boy band moment. We're doing some classical music. It's just so eclectic and all over the place, just as love is.
Anything tragic? Just as love sometimes is?
Love can be tragic and heartbreaking, and so we're going to share a little bit of that too.
Cool.
Here is page turn. Gross. Page turn. This is measure 21. Measure 21. Let's build this. Lower voices. Use your C. 3 and 4 and. We're the only choral experience in Tucson that's focused around the LGBTQ community, focused on the TTBB side, which is the tenor and bass side. So it's really not gendered, but we are a men's chorus. We're always open to anybody that wants to come and sing with us. We have gay men, bisexual men, trans men, straight allied men. We have everybody coming to sing with us every week.
Yeah, so it's more about tone of voice than
Absolutely.
whatever else you're identifying as.
As long as you can sing the part, you can come sing with Reveille.
That's so awesome. I
Yeah.
didn't realize that.
Scared and everything falls apart. You have to be super confident here.
Because it's more than just a choir, what would you say Reveille's role in the Tucson community is?
We create a space for people to express themselves through music, as well as attach themselves to a mission. Our mission is changing lives through music, and we do that by presenting songs and pieces of theatricality that can impact people and change people's views on diversity, equality, inclusiveness, all those wonderful things that makes a community here in Tucson really rich.
Yeah, and we were talking a little earlier, and one thing you said that I really responded to was that it's a place where people can come to socialize, to be together, including the audience.
Absolutely.
Outside of like a bar.
Absolutely,
like
yeah.
That. It's an alternative space.
For sure. Tucson is small but large,
Yeah.
right? And so in the queer community, we have a smaller environment, and to find a place where you can be yourself and express yourself through music and meet new friends and find another social outlet is kind of rare. And so Reveille is providing that space for everybody from 18 to 70 some.
So how would someone join that space?
So you can contact us through reveillemenschorus.org, and we have open auditions once in August and once in January each year. You come in, you hang out with us for a couple of rehearsals, and then if you like it, you stay for a voice check, which is me just checking to see which part you belong in.
Let's get to you.
Okay.
So I know because of some of my connections to the classical music world that choral directors have a reputation for being autocrats. How do you view your job?
I love my job. I'm blessed to be able to come in and work with people that are just amazing and work with songs and different genres of music every day. I'm a teacher by day, so I get to work with middle school students.
Oh, cool.
And I work with college students at the Arizona Repertory Theater, and then finally an amazing group of men each week with Reveille. So I'm lucky. I get to do everything through song.
It sounds like it's a lot of give and take.
For sure.
Yeah.
I get a lot back from the amazing voices and the energy, and then we put that together and deliver it to our community, hopefully with an amazing message for change.
Do you have a specific favorite moment or part of your job?
I love the process. It's not really about the product for me, it's seeing the growth within the singers and the songs. I know that you're a musician as well.
Yeah.
So seeing that point where we start everything from scratch and it's really kind of horrible, and then we end where it's absolutely fantastic. I love that whole journey.
Oh, sometimes there's
Yeah, I know.
it's really rocky and
Yeah,
awful.
it can
But
be rocky.
yeah, I'm glad to hear that lifts my spirit.
For sure.
One more time, just recap the show. How do people get tickets? How can they support you?
Sure. It's What's Love Got to Do with It at the Temple of Music and Art at the home of Arizona Theater Company. We are performing on the 13th and 14th, which the 14th is Mother's Day, so it's a perfect day to show
perfect.
your mom some love and bring her down to a whole bunch of singing, dancing, wonderful people.
Thanks for the reminder.
Right?
Yeah.
You can get your tickets at www.reveillemenschorus.org, or you can get them at the door if you want to do the Tucson procrastinate thing. Just come
Awesome.
right to the
Yeah,
door.
We do that. in the
Absolutely,
city.
absolutely.
All right, I've been here with Sean Cullen, Artistic Director of Reveille Men's Chorus. I hope to see you at the show on the 13th or 14th. Thanks so much, Tucson. I'll see you soon. Bye.